Good morning. By now, you know that these weeks of worship are an invitation to awaken, to notice, to receive the simple and profound delights woven into each of your days. Last week, I stepped into an unexpected delight. I signed up for a 1-hour experience, something I wouldn't normally do, but these days I'm learning to say yes, learning to welcome adventure in small and sacred ways. They called the event Fire and Ice. It was one of those bitterly cold days, the kind where the air stings on your skin before you even step outside. And we arrived at the back parking lot where a sauna trailer stood waiting. And there, just 25 feet away in the snow, sat 2 bathtubs. No changing rooms, no easing into comfort. So we shed our coats and socks, and yes, I made Roger come with me. We shed all of those things in the car, and in our bathing suits, we skipped quickly and breathlessly to the trailer. And inside, the heat wrapped around us 150 degrees of thick pine-scented warmth. Others were there, faces flushed, bodies dripping with sweat, and I took a deep breath. A delight. We were guided through a quiet meditation, a stillness within the heat, and then out we went, stepping into the cold air, lungs filling with the sharpness of winter. The ice-cold tubs waited. I stepped in. The water gripped me, fierce and unrelenting. I bellowed at the shock. I promise you all of Fort Collins heard me. The pain of it, how it felt, as though the water was peeling my skin away, and I tried to stay for the full 3 minutes that they suggest. But I probably only made it like 25 seconds. At first I said 40 seconds, but I was like, no, I actually was in there way less than that. And then I got out and raced back to the sauna, seeking warmth, seeking refuge. A delight. The tattooed man tending the fire poured wine and pine-infused water, although wine would have been super fun. Pine-infused water over the stones, a delight. And the woman guiding us into silence, into breath, a delight. And when I was ready, I stepped into the cold again. This time I got deeper, allowing the water to rise to my throat, to touch the center of me, pain and anguish, my body resisting, but I stayed breathing, just breathing. The breath itself, a delight, a gift, a slice of the holy. And somehow this ritual of fire and ice became something more than just a physical experience. It became a spiritual practice. A practice of balance, of noticing, of understanding that joy and hardship often live side by side. Amen? Amen. Isn't that the way of life? The fire makes the cold bearable, and the cold makes the fire sweet. The discomfort teaches us to pay attention, to know what is good, what is beautiful, what is healing, and even pain, even the constriction of muscle can be a path to something deeper and something whole. How is it that something so painful can also be a source of healing? That plunging into the ice can release endorphins, lift the spirit, soothe inflammation, and quiet the body's stress. Perhaps this is the wisdom of the Creator, who so often tucks joy inside the unexpected, who teaches us again and again that delight is not just found in the easy, but in the fullness of life itself. We must practice finding delight, naming delight. And it's not surprising that Jesus is preaching a sermon on the fullness of life. This segment of Luke continues from last week's Sermon on the Plain, where Jesus descends the hill to address a crowd. Here he calls us to love our enemies and delivers the famous golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But what if we first need to welcome the parts of ourselves that feel like that enemy? Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. What if we need to take care of ourselves before taking care of another? This command isn't as straightforward as it seems. It's not about enduring personal suffering. Jesus is not asking anyone to passively accept harm. For example, we are not simply inviting you to love an abuser. Instead, he presents a spiritual practice, a vision of God's realm, and a radical ethic for communal living. So what would it be like to first radically love yourselves and strengthen our love and empathy muscles so that we are more equipped to do unto others as we would have them do unto ourselves? This may seem counterintuitive, this idea that we have to put on our oxygen mask first before helping others in an emergency. This may seem selfish, but it makes sense. If you are not breathing, you cannot fully love anyone else. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy that we must love first. I was especially struck by our call to worship this morning. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Okay? And then the response, you might want to underline and highlight it. The response is, for the other is you. For the other is you. For the other is you. This is the ethic of Jesus, the ethic of love for self and for the community. It is what he preached to those first century people, even as they lived within the weight of societal constraints and vulnerabilities. It is an ethic that does not ignore suffering, but instead holds space for both struggle and joy, recognizing that they often dwell side by side. This ethic of love, especially for ourselves, has shaped our theme these past few weeks with everyday delights. When we first began to imagine this theme, the staff, before Pam arrived, and when our ministry coordinator, fresh from seminary, was still with us, Delaney, they reminded me of this book called The Book of Delights by Ross Gay, a book of 102 short essays, each one an attempt to notice and to name and to hold delight. The description of the author on his website goes something like this. Ross Gay is interested in joy. Ross Gay wants to understand joy. Ross Gay is curious about joy. Ross Gay studies joy. I told Delaney I had owned this book once, but I had given it away. I gave it away to one of you, by the way. I don't remember which one. So if you have it, let me know. But Ross Gay's writing is poetic and wandering and sometimes disjointed. And I felt like it was a little difficult for me to follow when I read it. But Delaney encouraged me to try it again, and this time on audio. So I did. I have listened to the Book of Delights over these past weeks, puzzling through stories, through its rhythms of noticing a delight. Ross Gay, a biracial author shaped by the realities of racial injustice, knows intimately the ways our world can limit human dignity and the possibilities for joy. And so in an interview, he was asked, so often we think of joy or delight as this standalone emotion, but your essays juxtapose these with difficult moments and the routine of everyday life. People might envy your optimism in these moments. How do you maintain an appreciative mindset, even in the harder moments of life? Gay's response was, I'm not optimistic. I'm just describing what I'm seeing. Profound suffering and profound care right next to each other. Isn't that the truth? Suffering and care, fire and ice, anguish and delight, woven together in the fabric of our days, just as the cold plunge made the warmth of the sauna all the more sacred, just as the breath in and out became an act of grace, and just as Jesus preached love in a world that so often resisted it. Ross Gay teaches us that naming delight is a way of taking care of ourselves, a way of holding on to what is holy when the structures of the world seem so set against us. And so we practice, we notice, we pay attention. We are called to see all of life, not just the fire and not just the ice. We need to see the struggle and the joy, the profound suffering and the profound care. And in that we see life as for what it is. And we can call it what it is, a delight. There is no better time than this moment in our U.S. history to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. For the other is you. For the other is you. A few years ago, Diana Butler Bass was sent an email with this question. If you had to choose one spiritual practice essential for growth today, what would it be? Her answer was hospitality, both inner and outer, because welcoming the exiled pieces of ourselves is essential for healing the world. This is the heart of our work as Christians. Thomas Merton said, create a safe space to welcome back the stranger within, and in the process, discover the hidden wholeness. What would it be like to welcome the lonely parts of yourself? To sit with self-judgment or fear, to not push them away, but to listen with compassion. This too would be a delight, a generous act of love. We are sometimes our own worst enemies. So to love the enemy of ourselves would allow us to love those people that make us nervous, that give us anxiety, that we fear. fire and ice, suffering and joy, they belong together. Just as the cold plunge made the warmth of the sauna sacred, so too do our wounds make love more powerful. And this is Jesus' point. As we grow intimate with our own places of exile, we find compassion for the struggles of others. As we name our compulsions and wounds, we can offer love to those longing for freedom. As I can feel my body ache with stress and my muscles constrict and the sweat of demons releasing during my fire and ice hour, I can know more deeply the communities right now under attack by our government undoing. The undoing of security, the undoing of families, the undoing of clarity within our communities. And so there will be a time, Plymouth, when these communities, when they need us. And so right now, we must strengthen our own hearts. We must take care of ourselves so that we then can take care of others. So my invitation to you is this: consider whether your love for yourself deepens each day. And when self-love feels impossible, I invite you to welcome even the wounded place. Beneath it, hidden, a fountain of love waits to be found. Let your prayer today be simple. Welcome a delight. Welcome every stranger at the inner door. A delight. Welcome as an act of love. More delight. Welcome as an act of faith in the wholeness that is already yours. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. For the other is you. For the other is you. Amen.